Throughout history, death wasn't just a punishment, it was a performance. From flesh boiling oil to insects eating you alive, these were the deaths so horrifying they were meant to be remembered or erased. This is history's darkest side. Death number 9. Burned alive at the stake. That's where our descent into history's darkest deaths begins. In medieval Europe and during the infamous witch trials of Salem, flames consumed the innocent and the accused alike, their screams rising with the smoke, their names never cleared. But even fire had rivals in cruelty. Charred bodies became warnings, pyres turned to public theater, and behind every execution, a crowd watched in silence or cheered. This was not justice, it was spectacle, and the fire was only the beginning. Death number 8. At number 8, the Vikings delivered divine punishment with the blood eagle, slicing open a man's back, pulling out his lungs, and spreading them like wings for Odin to see. It wasn't just death, it was ritual. The ribs were cracked open one by one, torn outward like the frame of a blood-stained altar. Then, the lungs were slowly pulled from the chest and draped across the shoulders, a grotesque symbol of flight, while the victim still breathed if his strength held. But this wasn't done in anger. It was sacred. The execution had to be carried out in total silence, not just from the crowd, but from the victim himself. For even a single scream would bring shame, not just to him, but to his family and his gods. It was a test of endurance, of honor, of the Viking soul. Pain became offering. At 7, death crawled from the shadows, the rat torture chambers of Renaissance Europe, where starving rodents were pressed against bare flesh and driven to tunnel through the living to escape. Prisoners were tied down, a clay pot placed on their stomachs, a rat sealed inside. Then, heat, a torch to the metal. And as the pot grew hotter, the rats did what instinct demanded. They clawed, bit, and tore their way out. Through flesh, through organs, through screaming. This wasn't just punishment. It was terror turned into science. Pain measured by distance. And every inch the rat traveled was another moment in hell. Death number 6. At 6, boiling oil waited for heretics and poisoners. Ancient Rome and medieval Europe tossed the condemned into bubbling cauldrons, where their flesh peeled as they screamed. This wasn't swift, it was a spectacle. Bodies were lowered slowly, limb by limb, into vats of scalding liquid, so the crowd could witness every second of agony. Skin blistered, eyes bulged, and bones cracked under the heat. The air filled with the stench of burning flesh. To be boiled alive wasn't just to die, it was to be unraveled, screaming, inch by inch. Death number 5. The 5th most horrifying, sawing. Victims were hung upside down, legs first, so the blood rushed to their brain, keeping them alive longer as the blade carved slowly through flesh and bone. In Rome, China, and the Ottoman Empire, it was a public display. The saw dragged back and forth between the thighs, splitting the body inch by inch. Death came slowly, deliberately. But England had its own version, sometimes vertical, sometimes horizontal, using serrated blades to stretch the agony even further. It wasn't just execution, it was human cruelty, perfected with precision. Death number 4. At number 4, traitors faced a punishment so brutal it was etched into history. They were hung until half dead, then disemboweled and torn limb from limb. They called it being hung, drawn, and quartered. First the noose, tight enough to choke, but not kill. Then the blade, carving open the abdomen, pulling out the intestines while the victim still gasped for air. Finally, the body was tied to 4 horses and ripped apart piece by piece. It wasn't just execution. It was a message written in flesh and blood. Betray the crown and be erased. Slowly. Death number 3. Number 3 drags us to the royal courts of India, where justice came on 4 legs. Trained elephants crushed skulls like melons, their massive feet obeying only the king's nod. This wasn't chaos. It was ritual. The execution ground was silent as the beast approached, armor gleaming, eyes calm. Sometimes the elephant was ordered to kill slowly, pressing limbs first, pausing, letting the crowd watch as bones snapped one by one. Other times, a single stomp ended it all. Death delivered not by man, but by a creature bred to kill with royal precision. Death number 2. Then came the brazen bull at number 2, a gleaming bronze sculpture, hollow within, shaped like a proud and mighty beast. But inside, it was an oven. Victims were forced through a trap door and sealed inside, then fires lit beneath their metal prison. As the heat rose, flesh seared, and the condemned were roasted alive, their screams echoing through a series of pipes in the bull's throat, transforming into the roar of a beast. It wasn't just execution, it was performance, a Greek invention where suffering became sound, and death, a spectacle of art and agony. Death number 1. But nothing compares to number 1, scaphism. In ancient Persia, the condemned was sealed between 2 wooden boats, only his head, hands, and feet exposed. He was force-fed milk and honey until he vomited and defecated on himself, then left under the burning sun. Insects swarmed, flies laid eggs, maggots fed. His flesh decayed while he still breathed. He didn't die in one day. He died slowly, in madness, in filth, in agony, devoured from the inside out. This isn't just a list. It's a truth that beneath every empire's glory lies a pit of horror we were never meant to survive.